Yeah, honestly, when you got the sorry, I don't remember
Blades of Chaos.
the flame the flame whips, the blades of chaos. When you got the, I mean, it was honestly a bit of a surprise that they had the blades of chaos in this game. I thought it was just going to be pure axe, and then I got the blades of chaos, and I was like, "Damn, this is amazing!" And yeah, like you kind of, I was constantly switching between axe for like big dudes and blades of chaos for like a lot of the little guys, which were a big problem towards like the middle to late part of the game. I really loved that they had two weapons. It was very surprising. I didn't.
Yeah, I mean that moment for like old players of God of War must have been like magical, like it was for me. Like you hear he's gonna go into the what's that word? Hell. It was the Hell realm, but it had a different name. It wasn't Hell. Helheim, yeah. So when you go into Helheim and you find out, okay, your ice axe isn't going to do anything to the enemies, you see Kratos like brushing off this fresh pair of the Blades of Chaos. And you're like, oh man, I remember using those. And the way they attack and the animations is all the same. So players of the old God of Wars, they get a little bit of a nostalgic kick there. But they're really useful, like you said. I found myself constantly switching between them. Neither weapon negated the effectiveness of the other. The ice axe was really great.
Yeah,
the ice
yeah,
axe was amazing against like the orcs and the bigger enemies. And yeah, the blades of chaos were amazing for like when you had to fight like tons of small enemies or enemies that were flying and stuff. So I absolutely loved that you almost had to switch between them to have an appropriate strategy.
yeah, yeah. I thought, and it just kind of goes down with the mechanics of the game, just general gameplay. But I thought like that part of the game was just so spot on. I kind of thought initially when I was playing it that the range of the ice axe was a little bit short. Like I felt like he couldn't really swipe really far, but I kind of liked it. I thought that it really added a little bit of skill to what you had to do. It didn't feel like it was a button mashing fighting game by any means. Like there's a lot of strategy with almost every encounter with an enemy.
Yeah, I agree. And I went pretty deep into the optional realm. I forget the name of it now. Mustaheim or Mustaheim?
I think Muspelheim?
Muspelheim, something like that. It's a fireplace. It's a fiery realm. And I beat all the swords. And yeah, there's some really, really intense horde battles that will have you scrambling between your weapons and abilities faster than any point in the game I've played. And so, I mean, that's really when I kind of gained a lot of chops between switching between runic attacks and the two items. But even in the regular campaign, it's still very useful in a lot of parts. The combat had a lot of strategy to it, which I really liked. But I do wish that the armor, I guess if I'm gonna match a con to a pro here. I kind of wish that the armor upgrades were a little more epic. I felt like there was just a huge list of armor on my body I could upgrade, but I rarely cared much about like what piece I was upgrading or kind of like what the effects would do. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I feel sort of similarly. Like I didn't really have a real desire to worry about my upgrading like my armor or just like worrying about any of the stuff I was wearing. Like all that stuff was cool and it was optional and you could definitely like do all of that, but it just didn't feel like that was like a really important aspect of the game at all.
Well, I think it was important to upgrade. I think you absolutely had to upgrade your armor to remain like keep your defense up against enemies.
But I mean, and I did it, but I just did it kind of like the reflexive, like just go to the store and just do it real fast and then just kind of move on. Like I wasn't thinking about it at all. It wasn't like any part of the game that I cared a lot about.
I've heard it in advertisements where they say like, oh, this is your chance to choose your own playstyle. You can be like a brawler and boost your defense, or maybe you can go more towards magic and boost your runic. I just kind of tried to pick the stats that boosted me the most without decreasing other stats too much. Maybe I played it very boring. I don't know.
I mean, I maybe I just had a more simple playthrough as well because I just didn't worry about any of that stuff. I just kind of want to just get through the story and experience some of the gameplay. But that brings us to the other thing is I just didn't really do a lot of the side quests, so I think my experience was a little bit different. You did a decent number of them, right?
Yeah, I didn't by any means do all of them. There's still quite a bit to do in the post game that I haven't done. But I did do a number of them on the way just to kind of give myself a little extra boost and get to experience the game a little more. I did like the side quest where you have to go into the dwarf. You have to find the old Dwarfen King, the mad Dwarfen King. You go into his realm and you're trying to help the other dwarves create a awesome piece of armor for you. That's a pretty awesome side quest where you explore the old Dwarven city.
Mm-hmm. See, I didn't even do that at all. Maybe I'll go back to a couple of those things.
In the optional realms, I actually liked Muspelheim. Muspelheim. I'll probably never say that right, but I love that realm. That was really fun. It was really challenging. There was one battle where I really kind of want to throw my controller, but it really is like such a fun test. In every battle, it's not just, hey, beat as many enemies as you can. Every single challenge in it has a very unique trait or has a very unique characteristic. Like there's one battle where you can only fight enemies and defeat them when they're in a certain circle in a allotted area. There's one where you just survive 100 enemies. There's another one where you can't let Atreus get captured. Like the battles are really cool. They did a really good job of creating these random kind of stipulations.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm not really into a lot of these fighting games, so it was, that side of the game wasn't for me as much, but I'm glad that they have all that stuff, and I'm glad that people who have played the previous games really loved that and appreciated it. So that's good.
Just as a side note, it's not like the storyline completely just cuts out when you go in these realms. Like as I'm going from side to side, there's still some banter between Mimir and Atreus and stuff happening about the realm you're in and kind of about like your environment. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't completely. They still do a really good job of making the side quests seem like they could actually be like. They're a very natural part of the world. They're organic. They're not something that was just thrown in there for padding for the gameplay.
Yeah. I did do a few side quests, and I definitely felt like that as well. Like it didn't feel like they were disjointed or not connected to the world. They felt like really fluid and natural.
The side quests in this game are amazing. They're really fun. They're not a waste of time. You get really valuable stuff for doing them. And they come alongside learning some new lore and kind of and learning about the world you're in more and hearing the characters have more conversation. They're really well done.
Yeah, totally. So this game's visuals are freaking amazing. I really feel like it's going to go down as probably one of the best looking games for the PS4. Like straight up, it's really just wonderful. But I have a few highlights of the game from just a graphical point of view, but what are your feelings about how the game looks?
I was pretty mind blown when I first turned the game on. Now, keep in mind, I don't have a PS4 Pro. I don't have a 4K TV or anything. Mm-hmm. I'm just playing this in your standard 1080p on your regular PS4, but the game still looks absolutely magnificent. Like, I just can't believe the attention to detail. And there was definitely points in the game where I was literally just zooming my camera around to see like how much attention to detail was given. Like I was looking at distant mist on the mountains. I was looking at reflections and puddles, reflections on like just golden terraces. Like I just couldn't believe all the attention to details that were given to everything. And yeah, I can't think of a more beautiful PS4 game off the top of my head. There might be one, but
yeah, it really did it for me as far as that goes. But I really just the opening experience, I think, where you're hacking down that tree to act as like a pyre for your dead wife, I guess. And like he hacks the tree down and he just like carries it through the forest. Like visually, that was just an incredible scene. But I mean, there's so many just great moments throughout the entire game. But I really loved the turtle house that you encounter. That was really cool.
Yeah, I love the turtle house too. That was really cool. Not even just graphically, as an idea as well, like pretty unique. And maybe it does have a place in actual Norse mythology. But yeah, it looked absolutely beautiful. All the flowers around it, the garden, all the pollen that's like floating around in the air. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
And another moment that really struck me, is probably when you're battling by that dead giant's head.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty intense. That that definitely hit me a little bit. I was like, wow, that's a giant right there. It's dead. It might not be dead, but I think it is. But like you're like literally crawling up its arm. You're battling right in front of its like still open eyes. It's just it's one of those moments where they really capture the lore of the world within the visuals so well, and it just complements the gameplay.
Yeah, dude, and oh my god, I can't believe that you actually go inside of the world serpent's like body. Like you like I can't believe that happens. He's just like, okay, yeah, now you're going in the world serpent. Like, holy crap, man, that was amazing.
I can't believe the world serpent let us to go in there.
Yeah,
he just kind of goes down. Mir's like, oh yeah, he's willing to let you in. Go ahead. And the world serpent just decides to open his mouth and let you take a boat inside him.
Yeah, that was really great. All the scenes with the boat, I thought, were done really well because it's just like you and your son, maybe Mimir, or we didn't even talk about Mimir at all. But yeah, I thought that the boat scenes were great. They're really cool.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you said that because a lot of people are really complimenting the boat system in this game, and it serves a really, really important purpose. I love the boat scene. It's a moment where not only you just get to explore and see another part of the world, but it's always the chance for the kind of dialogue between your characters. The side stuff, it's usually, not always, but it's usually not going to be the pivotal information that relates to the plot, but it's a really awesome way to hear more about the lore and the world itself.
Yeah, and games need these kind of like slower moments of transition from realm to realm or area to area, and yeah, like and I like the boat parts because you're moving along, like you still have to navigate the river, but it's not like a serious situation. You don't have to be super focused on what you're doing, but they have this like really interesting banter going on, and some of the most important story parts of the game seem to happen like when you're on your boat, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree because a lot of games now I think a lot of people in general think of traveling, like I'm going to call it long traveling. Going from an actual destination to another destination is kind of a waste of time or an archaic idea within gaming or something that's kind of ancient. Mm-hmm. But God of War and some games like it still show us that, hey, you can like completely have us go around the world. You can slow travel and have it be really meaningful. Like there's nothing quite like being in God of War when you just see these beautiful caverns and you're exploring all these new areas. So visually it's amazing. But yeah, you're hearing all this like conversation that relates to the history of your characters or the lore of the game. And it's just a really personal, touching, awesome experience. And it hits you on so many different levels.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that. But so another aspect of the game that I thought went really well, and it kind of relates a bit to the combat that we didn't mention before, but just as like an addition to the story or just the game in general, is Atreus' role. And I thought that in the gameplay, am I adding an R? Okay, yeah. Atreus' role throughout the game is he kind of acts as your support and with his bow. And I thought that they did that really well, and it added a great little addition, and gave you an ability to aggro the enemies, keep them off you. While like 5 are attacking you, but you can get Atreus to fight a couple of them or something. And I thought that really added a really interesting element to the game. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely liked Atreus as a character. I did like him in combat. I like that you could upgrade his abilities, and I like that he became more dynamic and more effective throughout the game, kind of like as he actually developed personally throughout the game. It kind of stayed in line, the combat in the story. But I do think that at the end of the game, I was just constantly kind of hitting square to kind of have him shock enemies so I could hit him.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it was necessary, and sometimes I was kind of just like, okay, I'm kind of sick of hitting square. Like, it was mostly great. I don't want to make it seem like it wasn't a good addition to the game. I liked the two participant combat system they had going on. I just thought at the end of the game that I was using Atreus in kind of a bland and thoughtless kind of way where I was just kind of hitting the square button and having Kratos just demolish enemies as they were shot. But there was definitely some really intense battles where I had to use them pretty creatively, and moments where I was like way too engaged with Kratos to even really think of Atreus. And that was when I was very thankful that Atreus was able to kind of command himself at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you can make arguments either way about Atreus, but I think we can at least both agree that it wasn't terrible. It could have been potentially awful, but I think they did a pretty good job overall with him.
Yeah, and actually, I might bite my own tongue on this one, but I kind of wish Atreus was a little bit more vulnerable, like he had a health bar or something.
Oh, yeah.
But I kind of don't at the same time.
Yeah, there were definitely moments where you're like, okay, Atreus should probably be dead right now. And he just wasn't. Like, he just, like, go in there and just, like, all these enemies are around him, and it doesn't seem natural. It's just a bit strange.
Yeah. And the Baldur fight at the very end, he was just hanging around Baldur the whole time. Yeah, he would be so dead if this is a real fight.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, we mentioned a bunch of stuff we really liked about the game, but what are a few things that you think were lacking? Like, what was one that you had?
Yeah, I just want to preface this by saying that I really do think this game is pretty much a 10 out of 10. Like, I don't think that there's any complaints I have that really bring the game below that. But I do have a few minor things I thought that could have maybe been incorporated in the game. And the first one I would say is the presence of kind of wildlife or people outside of the actual playable characters or like popular NPCs. There were no towns. I thought there could have been a couple towns, even if it was just one or two. There could have been deer. There could have been birds. There could have been fish. There could have been so many things added to this world to kind of make it just pop a little bit more and become a little bit more alive.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that completely. Like, they could have added a lot of stuff to this game, but I'm kind of glad in a way that it is what it is, because what we got was just a very high quality game. I'm glad that it's not the game we got plus a lot of cities that were just kind of thrown in there. And I feel like that could have potentially been what happened. I think instead they kind of just took their time and just thought, okay, we're going to spend time and make what this game, these assets that we want in this game really, really good. And we're not going to worry too much about having a lot of extra stuff. So it would have been nice if they had a lot of extra stuff, but I feel like maybe if they added too much, that the quality would have went down.
You know, I guess like when I say that, I don't mean they have to be fully fledged villages with like shops and mini games. I would have just liked to see some like passerbyers once in a while. Like maybe you would have fought them, maybe you wouldn't. Like kind of like when you play Breath of the Wild, there's people just kind of walking by you occasionally.
Yeah. Just
like a sign of life. Or even if you don't want to include extra people, like I would have liked to see more animals in the world. You know, whether you could interact with them or not. It would have been really cool to see like a fox or an eagle flying above you, or, you know, some more wildlife, just to make the world seem a little bit more, I guess, realistic, because you're in nature so much of the game, it's kind of hard to believe that you would only have literally just two men walking without any wildlife around you.
Yeah, I mean, you had those like cinematic experiences with wildlife at the beginning. Like, do you remember that like boar that you pretty much like you almost killed it, and then Freya brought it back to life. But it's like it does make like those experiences with the wildlife a little bit less believable when like there's no other wildlife throughout the entire rest of the game.
Yeah, you have like a deer you're hunting and a boar, and outside of that, I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't remember seeing any other animals in this world.
Yeah, it is a bit of an oversight. It would have been nice if that stuff was included, but I kind of understand why, just because of limited resources, and they want to like bring quality in every asset that they have in the game. But yeah, I totally agree. That would have been nice to have a little bit more of that.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, I still think the game's a 10 out of 10. It's a complaint, but it's not a big enough complaint where I think it really takes a notch off the game.
Mm-hmm.
But what is one of your downsides, or one of the things you thought could have been a little better?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's in the fighting animations, there's a bit of repetition. Especially okay, just like in terms of like some of the enemies that you're fighting. So the very first enemy that you fight is a troll, and you seriously see that movement pattern in a troll like maybe 20 or 30 times throughout the whole game. And it's just like, it's just, okay, here comes another one. Like you kind of just, you get so used to it. And it's not like a bad enemy. It's just like a bit overused. And I think there's a couple enemy forms like that are just so frequent that could have had a little bit more variety in the types of enemies that you encountered.
Yeah, I guess I can agree with that. And plus, riding the trolls was kind of cool the first few times you do it, but eventually I was just like, oh, I gotta ride another troll and kill every other enemy around me.
Yeah, and I don't know. Some of the enemies to me were just straight up annoying. Like I didn't like the Revenants. I don't know.
But I don't think you were supposed to like the Revenants. I think they were supposed to be annoying, to be fair.
Okay, maybe. But
I mean, they're horrible, yeah, because you have to basically hit them with Atreus with an arrow.
Yeah.
To even like have them be susceptible to your attacks. But I think enemies like that are kind of needed because if every enemy is kind of easy to hit and easy to defeat, it kind of fits that there's a stealthier magical enemy like a Revenant that is such a pain in the ass you don't want to see it. Whenever you see it, you're like, oh god, another one. But to me, I thought it was a cool addition to the game.
Yeah, they're all right. But okay, so then another another lacking aspect of this game is I do feel like they could have had a little bit more of the gods in it. Like there really weren't too many Norse gods in this game.
Yeah, I guess I would have liked to see more gods, but at the same time, if they are planning on making this like an actual trilogy of new God of War games, maybe they're trying to spread the Norse pantheon kind of across these games rather than throw all of them at you at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I would definitely like to see Thor, because they at the end of the game, like they super alluded to him, and it just seems like if there's another Norse God of War game, Thor is going to be in that game.
I mean, I think spoiler alerts like crazy here, but if you see the secret ending of this game, you see that Thor appears and he's basically ready to take Kratos on. Thor is he's a must in God of War 2. It would be an actual disappointment if you don't see Thor in the next God of War.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually really hope that Odin makes an appearance as well. That'd be really good.
Yeah, I guess that might have been my disappointment with the gods, is you hear so much about Odin, and he's in the shadows of all these conversations and all these happenings, and yet it never crystallizes. He just remains there throughout the rest of the game, and you defeat Baldur, and you keep hearing there's repercussions. Odin's going to be angry at you. Odin's rage, Odin's wrath, he's angry. But, like, you never see him, or nothing ever happens with it. And I at least wanted to see Odin make an appearance, even if it was, like, something minor.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. It would be better if they've kind of fleshed out a little bit more of the Norse gods. But, I mean, what we did get was pretty good. I really enjoyed Freya. I thought that, like, Freya's relationship with Baldur, like, maybe it wasn't the perfect, antagonist of a video game, but it was just like it was interesting. Like Baldur was just utterly tormented, and his relationship with Freya was just you'd always be discovering different aspects of it throughout the whole game, and at the end it was kind of really the result was really surprising for me. I was like, damn.
For me as well, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I did. I mean, I said this is a very mixed response from me, because I am disappointed, but I'm really happy with what I got too. Like, Mimir is really awesome as a third voice.
We didn't talk about Mimir too much, but man, I really love Mimir.
He's great. Yeah, he's definitely he's an awesome third voice to have, and I think almost essential with how quiet Kratos can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked Baldur as an enemy. His invulnerability was interesting. Like, the way he approaches you is pretty interesting. He basically comes at you like nothing can hurt him, and you find you kind of find out by accident what's actually going to do him in. I really like Freya's character, like how she's kind of like a tortured soul. She has her history with Odin that's kind of revealed in the boat. If you keep going on boat rides, and you find out she's like has an undying love for her son. I don't know. I really liked all the gods that we got. I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, me too. But we're getting a little long on time. But just to close this out, what do you think about the significance of this game in the world of God of War, but also just PlayStation and video games in general?
I guess I'll start with God of War. I think God of War's significance is, in effect, a sequel and a reboot. It's an effective sequel in that it kind of keeps Kratos' legacy alive and it gives him a bigger purpose. But it's also a reboot in the terms of the mechanics of the game being reworked, the focus on a more personal story, and potential new characters, maybe being playable characters in the future. I could totally see Atreus as being playable for at least a portion of the next game. And I think that it's an awesome way to bring back an old series, keeping it intact. A lot of the stuff is the same. Some of the animations, the weapons, some of the runic spells. And I think it's a great way to keep the series alive while reinventing it. I think for PlayStation, it's just absolutely huge AAA game to have, an exclusive. Drives another spike into the Xbox One, kind of keeps Nintendo like having to think about the PlayStation 4 as an actual. It's still alive. The PS4 is not dead. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. God of War has a lot of potential to be Game of the Year. You know, it's kind of it's a great game for PlayStation to have.
Yeah, and I feel similarly about all of that. I do. So my thoughts about God of War were, I was thinking about the fact that it's kind of like an older franchise being rebooted. And I think that is kind of the mindset of a lot of game developers these days. Like, I think there's a lot of legacy within the gaming world. And I think it's really cool to see respect given to kind of the legacy of where games have come in general. And God of War really reminds me of, I'm not really sure if you're familiar with it, but do you know the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel?
Not really.
It's a graphic novel published by Dark Horse, and it's basically Batman is like being a super old man who's like reluctantly brought back into the Batman universe to kind of just like kick ass, and he like kind of does, he really doesn't want to, but the situation just pulls him back. And I kind of feel like this is a God of War take on that. Like Kratos is pulled back into this world and he doesn't really want to go back. He kind of is distancing himself from it, and that's kind of why he's in this Norse world anyway, because he wants to distance himself from the old world that he was in, but he's somewhat just reluctantly brought back into it. And I think that's really interesting, and I thought that they did a really good job, and I think that this game will be remembered very highly for the PS4, but just in general for gaming in general.
Yeah, for sure. I call this game being Game of the Year in December, or at least potentially Game of the Year. I do think it might still be Game of the Year. You think the same, or?
I think so. I don't know. There may be a couple games out there that are potential competitors, but as far as I'm aware, I think that this game stands a really good chance, actually.
Yeah, for sure. I think it definitely will be a nomination, if nothing else. Okay, guys. Well, that's about a wrap today, and thanks for listening. We appreciate it, and we're really excited to be here and happy to do the podcast. This was a huge podcast. We talked about a lot. We didn't talk about a lot. And I would love to hear what you guys think about our podcast. What did you guys agree with what we said? Disagree with it? Please let us know. And thanks for listening, guys. See you next time for podcast number 5.